in old age. 3 things not to say, 3 things not to do, and 3 people not to keep close. As we grow older, something subtle begins to change inside us. We don't necessarily want more excitement, more noise, or more recognition. What we want, often without saying it out loud, is to be treated with respect. Not admiration, not praise, just respect. To feel that our presence still matters, that our words still carry weight, and that our life experience is not invisible. Many older people quietly carry a kind of sadness that has nothing to do with money or health. It comes from feeling overlooked, dismissed, or taken for granted. Sometimes it comes from society, sometimes from friends, and painfully, sometimes even from family. Yet here is a difficult truth that few like to admit. Respect does not automatically arrive with age. It grows from the way we live, the way we speak, and the way we treat others. In the later years of life, wisdom is no longer about proving anything. It is about knowing what to hold on to and what to let go. That is why today we talk about a simple but powerful idea. 3 things not to say, 3 things not to do, and 3 kinds of people not to keep close as we age. These are not rigid rules. They are gentle reminders meant to help us live with peace, dignity, and clarity. Let us begin with words, because words shape how others see us, and even more importantly, how we see ourselves. The first thing to avoid saying is anything that cuts directly into another person's weakness. No matter how intelligent or experienced we are, every human being has flaws. And no matter how calm someone appears on the outside, everyone carries a sense of pride on the inside. When we point out someone's shortcomings too sharply or too often, even if we believe we are telling the truth, we are not offering wisdom. We are planting resentment. In younger years, people often argue to win. In older years, arguing usually just leaves everyone tired. Wisdom means knowing that not every truth needs to be spoken immediately, and not every flaw needs to be exposed. Silence, when chosen carefully, can protect relationships better than the most accurate criticism. Think about this for a moment. A harsh word may feel solid and powerful, but it shatters easily. A gentle word may feel soft, but it lasts. When we choose kindness in speech, we are not being weak. We are being skillful. And skillfulness earns respect. The second thing not to say is praise about ourselves that crosses into bragging. There is nothing wrong with having lived a full life. There is nothing wrong with being proud of what you've built, what you've survived, or what you've achieved. But when pride turns into constant self-promotion, it quietly pushes people away. In Western culture, especially in America, we are taught to highlight our accomplishments. That may be useful in careers and business, but in later life, it often works against us. When someone repeatedly talks about how successful they were, how much they earned, or how much they know, listeners don't feel inspired. They feel small or worse, irritated. True confidence does not need an audience. People naturally admire those who carry their achievements lightly. When you speak less about what you have done, others become more curious. When you insist on being recognized, recognition disappears. There is a deep dignity in modesty. It allows your presence to feel safe rather than competitive. It invites conversation instead of comparison. And most importantly, it allows people to respect you without feeling pressured to. The third thing not to say is words that have no clear purpose. Complaints that go nowhere. Stories that repeat without meaning. Talking simply to fill silence. As we age, it is easy to fall into this habit, especially when loneliness or worry creeps in. The mind becomes busy and the mouth follows. But excessive, unfocused talking often creates distance rather than connection. People may listen politely, but inside, they begin to withdraw. Words carry energy. When we speak without intention, we drain not only others, but ourselves. Conversations become heavy instead of nourishing. Over time, people associate our presence with emotional fatigue. This does not mean we should suppress ourselves or never share our struggles. It means choosing clarity over clutter. Saying what matters when it matters, to the right person. Thoughtful speech reflects a thoughtful mind. And thoughtful minds are respected. When we speak less, our words gain weight. When we speak with care, our voice gains authority. This is not about becoming quiet. It is about becoming precise. Now, once we learn to guard our words, we naturally begin to examine our actions. Because respect is not built by speech alone. It is built by behavior repeated over time. The first thing to avoid doing is constantly comparing yourself to others. Comparison is one of the most effective ways to steal joy, especially in older age. It often begins innocently, looking at someone else's retirement, their health, their children, their lifestyle. And suddenly, without warning, gratitude turns into bitterness. Every life unfolds differently. Some people sacrifice youth for comfort later. Others enjoy youth but face challenges afterward. There is no universal schedule for happiness. When we compare outcomes without understanding journeys, we do ourselves a deep injustice. Many older adults look back and measure their lives against others. That person seems more relaxed. That family seems closer. That retirement looks easier. But comparison never shows the full picture. It only highlights what we lack and ignores what we survived. Contentment grows when we stop measuring our lives against someone else's highlight reel and start acknowledging our own resilience. The only meaningful comparison is between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Are you more patient? More honest? More at peace? Those are real victories. Another behavior to avoid is harming others through envy, resentment, or subtle hostility. Harm does not always come from obvious cruelty. Sometimes it shows up as passive aggression, coldness, or quiet sabotage. When we envy someone else's success, we carry poison that has nowhere to go except inward. Resentment hardens the heart and clouds judgment. It turns relationships into silent battlegrounds. In later life, harmony becomes more valuable than dominance. People remember how you made them feel far longer than they remember what you achieved. When you celebrate others genuinely, when you help without calculation, when you show goodwill without expectation, something interesting happens. People feel safe around you. And safety creates respect. Kindness is not weakness. It is strength refined by experience. Those who understand this live lighter, freer lives. This brings us gently to another essential principle, one that often determines whether later years feel peaceful or restless. It is the relationship we have with desire, with wanting more, with never feeling satisfied. But before we go deeper into that, pause for a moment and reflect. Notice how all these ideas connect. Careful speech leads to calmer relationships. Fewer comparisons lead to greater peace. Reduced resentment leads to deeper connection. This is how wisdom works. Not through dramatic change, but through quiet alignment. And as we continue, we will explore how letting go of excess desire and choosing people wisely can transform not just how others see us, but how we experience our remaining years. When desire goes unchecked, it quietly becomes a burden. In younger years, ambition can feel energizing. It pushes us forward, helps us build, survive, and compete. But in later life, that same hunger, if not softened, often turns into restlessness. Wanting more money, more recognition, more control, more certainty. The problem is not desire itself. The problem is never knowing when enough is enough. One of the most peaceful lessons aging can teach us is this: not every opportunity needs to be taken, and not every advantage needs to be claimed. There is a difference between securing what is necessary and grasping for what is excessive. When we cross that line, we begin to trade peace for anxiety. People who are always calculating gains and losses rarely feel satisfied. Even when they receive something good, they worry about losing it. Even when they succeed, they feel uneasy, wondering if there was more they could have taken. This constant tension wears down the spirit. There is an old wisdom that says real wealth is knowing when to stop. When we stop competing for every advantage, we stop seeing others as threats. When we stop chasing excess, we begin to appreciate stability. Contentment is not settling for less. It is choosing freedom over obsession. In later years, dignity often comes from restraint. From being able to say no to greed, no to unnecessary conflict, and no to the idea that life owes us something more. When we release that weight, life feels lighter. And people sense that calm. They trust it. They respect it. At this point, many people realize something important. Even if we speak wisely and act kindly, our peace can still be disrupted by the wrong relationships. Which is why the final principle matters just as much as the first two. It is about knowing who not to keep close. As we age, time becomes more precious. Energy becomes more limited. Emotional space becomes sacred. Not everyone deserves access to it. The first kind of person to be cautious around is someone who lacks gratitude and basic respect for family. This does not mean judging others harshly. It means observing patterns. How someone treats their parents, caregivers, or those who sacrificed for them reveals a great deal about their character. A person who easily dismisses those who gave them life will likely dismiss others when it becomes convenient. Loyalty does not suddenly appear in friendship if it is absent in family. Distance, in this case, is not cruelty. It is self-protection. The second kind of person to avoid growing close to is someone who only thinks in terms of personal gain. These individuals view relationships as transactions. They keep mental records of favors given and favors received. Their kindness often comes with expectations, and their presence often comes with pressure. At first, they may seem charming or helpful. But over time, their self-interest becomes exhausting. Conversations feel one-sided. Support flows in one direction. When you are useful, they are present. When you are not, they disappear. In later life, relationships should feel nourishing, not draining. Mutual care matters more than mutual benefit. Choosing distance from self-centered people is not selfish. It is an act of wisdom. The third type of person to be cautious with is someone who cannot be trusted. Trust is the foundation of peace. Without it, every interaction carries tension. You hesitate before speaking. You second-guess intentions. You feel the need to protect yourself. People who frequently break promises, shift stories, or change principles based on convenience create instability around them. Even if they appear successful or influential, proximity to them often leads to disappointment. In older age, emotional safety matters more than excitement. Reliability matters more than charisma. Being around trustworthy people allows the nervous system to relax. And when the body relaxes, the mind follows. Now, when we step back and look at all of this together, something becomes clear. Aging well is not about accumulating more. It is about refining life. Refining words. Refining actions. Refining relationships. To understand this more deeply, consider a simple story. Imagine two stones lying side by side. Both are strong. Both are full of potential. One day, a craftsman comes along looking for material to shape into something meaningful. He lifts the first stone and prepares to work on it. But the stone resists. It fears discomfort. It fears pressure. It fears being changed. So the craftsman sets it aside. The second stone says nothing. It endures the hammer, the chisel, the repeated blows. It does not resist the process. Over time, it transforms. It becomes something beautiful, something valuable, something worthy of reverence. Years later, the first stone still exists. Untouched. Unshaped. But it serves a small purpose, easily replaced. The second stone, having endured hardship, holds meaning far beyond its original form. Life works the same way. Many of the difficulties we resent in our past were shaping us. The disappointments, the sacrifices, the moments when life felt unfair. They were not punishments. They were refinement. This is especially important to remember in later years, when reflection becomes frequent. It is easy to look back and wish things had been easier. But ease does not create depth. Endurance does. If you feel tired now, it does not mean you failed. It may mean you carried weight that others could not. If your path felt harder, it may be because you were being prepared for understanding, compassion, and strength. And here is the quiet truth. People sense that depth. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They feel it in your calm. They feel it in your patience. They feel it in the way you no longer rush to judge or compete. That is respect. Not demanded. Not announced. Earned through consistency. In the end, growing older is not about fading away. It is about becoming essential in a different way. Becoming a steady presence.